Hey everybody, it's Pastor Ryan here with you today with a special message geared towards the children in our congregation. Kids, as the seasons change and as the weather gets colder, there are still some awesome things to look forward to, even as we get ready for things like Halloween and Thanksgiving, and maybe even already just a little bit our Christmas celebrations. When I was a boy, I had the chance to go to a summer camp, and after a few years' time, I began to celebrate and kind of take in all of the stories that were shared at camp, lessons that meant to show us a little bit about God and certainly how He's made us to be. It happened to be that for 3 years going to this summer camp at different times, one camp counselor always had a devotion on Friday morning, the last day before we would leave for home. And all this counselor would do is come to the fire pit after breakfast and would bring a whole big bushel of apples, right? Again, as the season changes in the fall, maybe you're getting ready to go do some apple picking or head off to a pumpkin patch. Remember, it's still very healthy to be out and about outside, and I pray that you get the chance to do something like that. Well, whether or not you pick apples from the tree or you're going to the store, this is the kind of story that my camp counselor would share with us to celebrate the way that God makes us to be rather special. As the story goes, there was one little apple tree that was planted in a forest surrounded by all of these giant, massive oak trees. And seemingly as the apple tree looked up to heaven and talked to God, couldn't see the sky, but through all of the weaving branches of the oak tree could see all of the stars that God had sent as lights in the darkness. Whether it was a full moon or a cloudy night or not, the apple tree would look to heaven and would be kind of jealous of the oak trees and say, God, I know you've made me to be something special, but I want to be as special as the oak trees. You see, the way that the apple tree saw the rest of the trees, it looked to God and said, God, I want to be like the oak trees. I want to have stars on my branches too. And so God reached down, and at the right time, in due season, the apple tree blossomed. All of these wonderful white and yellow little flowers that would cover the apple tree's branches. Beautiful blossoms that people would stop by and look at and take pictures and celebrate how beautiful God has made His creation. The apple tree wasn't happy just having blossoms on its branches, so it cried out and prayed again to God that God would make it just as special as the oak trees and put stars on its branches. Well, over time the blossoms would seize up and drop away, and these beautiful apple fruits would start growing on the branches of the tree, beautiful, ripe, red, and delicious. And there again, people would come by and check on the tree, and they'd wait for that first frost and they'd start picking the apples. Well, the apple tree was rather frustrated and looked to heaven and said, God, all of these beautiful fruits are amazing, but I still want to be like the oak trees and have stars on my branches. God looked down to the apple tree and said, don't you think it's enough that I let you bear this great fruit so that you can feed other people? And the apple tree shook its branches, and all of the fruit fell to the ground. Well, when the fruit fell to the ground, there happened to be one or two of these little apples that fell on its side and split in half. And when the apple split in half, the apple tree saw that there were little stars planted just inside the apple. In fact, if you take time to cut an apple in half on its side, you too will find that God has planted these little stars inside of His apples. As you celebrate the joy of God's creation, you too can maybe take some time and just kind of open up. Apples, oranges, bananas. Celebrate the wonderful joy that God has given us with the fruit of the earth. Each one is, of course, expressly different. Whether you look for the star that's inside the apple, or whether you see all of the little cells that make up a juicy orange, whatever it's like for you, I pray that as you celebrate the joy of, say, cutting and eating fruit and staying healthy, the first joy of that is, one, celebrating just how special God has created all of these wonderful blessings, and to know maybe most especially from the story that for as much as God plants these little surprises in fruits like apples and other things, maybe it's our special way of not only seeing just the little fingerprints that God puts on everything to make it special, and to know that if he can make something like a plain old apple that special, well, he certainly made you to be very special as well. I look forward to the day celebrating with you the way that God has planted a seed in you, the gift of faith, and seeing how that will sprout and grow and bear fruit. In the same way that an apple tree is meant to give apples to feed others, well, certainly God is blessing you with good things so that you can help others be encouraged, know God's love, and grow as well. I look forward to seeing you soon, especially as our Sunday school programs begin this fall. And in the meantime, I wish you good health and God's peace. We'll see you soon.